And it was funny because people are like, oh, well, the Knicks shouldn't have wanted to get the 2 seed because then they have to play the 76ers. And I'm like, why? I've seen Joel Embiid lose to Trae Young before in 6 games. Like, why wouldn't you want to play the Philadelphia 76ers, who are worse than they were last year? I mean, you brought in Buddy Hields, who is supposed to be a difference maker. Are you fucking kidding me? Every time Buddy Hield touches the ball, he looks shell shocked, terrified, immediately wants to get rid of it. Oh, why? You don't want to go up against Tobias Harris, one of the most overrated players, the most overpaid player in NBA history who's never made an All-Star game. Tobias Harris. The guy you chose over Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris. That guy, the guy who I have never seen make an impact in a playoff game, Tobias Harris. The guy who in every single elimination game doesn't show up, Tobias Harris. That guy, okay. Joel Embiid, the guy who, okay, you lose game 2, you're going back to Philadelphia down 2-0, and he's like, oh yeah, I blame the refs for blowing a 5-point lead with 30 seconds left. Like, dude, you're 7 feet tall, and I get it. If you're playing in a game and you're injured, I respect it, but you're also playing in a game, so you put yourself out there for criticism, and then you're just sitting down with your head down, not even looking at the media, and then you come back, win in game 3, credit to you, and then in game 4, you lose and you blame the fans? Really? You're like, oh, why were Knicks fans here? I'm like, New York's not that far away. And I don't know, you're 30 years old, you're injured every single year, and it's the same exact story for the Philadelphia fans every year where, oh, if only Joel Embiid was healthy, how good we could be every year. I'm a media member and I'm an NPC and agree with every other media member, and I'm picking the Sixers to go to the finals this year because, wow, if Joel Embiid is healthy, well, every single year, he's not healthy. And at some point, when you're 30-year-old big man who's over 250 pounds, you're not going to get healthier as your career goes on. And he's 30 years old. He's not going to get it done.
No, he's not going to get it done, especially when he has the worst fourth quarter field percentage in the entire playoffs at this point. He's not clutch in the fourth quarter. I know he had that big game in game 3 where he had the 50-point bomb. But other than that, his playoff success is extremely lacking. I mean, you had a time where you had Ben Simmons in his prime, and you had Jimmy Butler in his prime, and you had Tobias Harris, and you guys did nothing.
JJ Redick, too.
Yeah, you had JJ Redick as well. And the ceiling for them is winning a playoff series. And you've had some of the best rosters in the NBA at certain points, and they've definitely underperformed. And there's one, and it's not Doc Rivers, and it's not Nick Nurse, and it's not all of these players that I mentioned before. There is one person who is consistent in all of this, and it's Joel Embiid. At some point, you got to take some recognition for yourself. You have to be the proper leader to lead your team to this point and have the team on your back. When you don't show up in the fourth quarter, you don't show up in every single game, and you're constantly blaming refs and fans and everybody except for your team, you're not going to end up getting over the hump. And now at this point, as I see a guy who has had nothing but first-round exits and second-round exits, at this point, him and Kevin Durant should join forces at this point because they'd be a perfect fit for each other. They're both crybabies who lose in the first round and demand to have help around them and is never happy with what they have.
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, the problem in Philadelphia, they're never going to get over the hump, and they're never going to make it out of the second round with Joel Embiid, no matter who they have around them.
Yeah, next time you're like whine your way to winning MVP again, it's like, well, there's a reason, like, when we have this image of you in the playoffs of being a constant choker, it's like, at least James Harden in Houston was making the conference finals every year. Like, people give James Harden so much shit, but don't keep that same energy with Joel Embiid. Like, yeah, he's hurt. Like, yes, he's hurt. When has he never been hurt in the playoffs? Like, this is the point. You got tired versus the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young, Clint Capella, Kevin Huerter, like the Hawks. You lost to the Hawks not in 7, in 6 because you get tired. I don't even care if Ben Simmons was on your team. You should beat the Hawks on one leg. That was mind-boggling that year. And then the Bucks made the Hawks look like light work in the conference championship. You haven't ever beat the Milwaukee Bucks. You've never beaten the Boston Celtics. You're up 3-2 on them last year. Was that the ref's fault? Was that the fans' fault? Or was that James Harden's fault for winning a game when you weren't on the court? Like, why is last year James Harden's fault? He showed up and showed out and gave them a 3-2 lead, which is all you can ask from your second best player. But Maxey didn't show up in that game. Embiid didn't show up in your game. And now we're resorting to when you're on the ground, you're grabbing people trying to jump in the air and you're grabbing their legs. Like, first of all, if that was Draymond, would have been out of there immediately and suspended for a game. Russell Westbrook gets suspended for throwing a fake punch at a player. But Joel Embiid can grab someone's legs at this point. It's like, this guy does not get the media treatment that he deserves, because it's like, yeah, oh, they're always like, yeah, I respect Embiid for going out there hurt and putting it all on the line. It's like, okay, but that's also been the consistent through line of his career, where he's always hurt, playing through something and not able to get you over the hump, which is why he'll never be Giannis. He'll never be Jokic. He'll never be Steph. He'll never be Kawhi. And that's why I always say in the playoffs, I would rather have Jason Tatum, because I've seen Jason Tatum sweep him, come back from 3-2 on him, have a incredible game 6, and then I've seen Jason Tatum drop 46 in Milwaukee down 3-2 and then come back and the Celtics wipe him out at home.